Hi everyone, it's Hani from Haniela's here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, we're going to make royal icing transfers. These are edible decorations that can be made ahead of time, and then you can use them to embellish your cookies, cakes, cupcakes, macarons, and so on. Let's get started. I'm going to use variety of different colors. I colored my royal icing with gel food colorings, and you can find a full recipe on how to make royal icing on my blog. I'm also offering these transfer sheets. They're on sale at the moment. You can find a link where you guys can check these out in the description box under this video. So let's get started with candy canes, everybody's favorite around the holidays. I have my template in a smooth protector sheet, transparent protector sheet, and I'm piping directly onto the protector sheet. I'm using icing that is slightly thicker than my flat consistency. Use about 20 to 25 second consistency icing here. And if you see any spikes in the icing, use your scribe tool to smooth those out. Use a sewing motion up and down. I'm piping lines across with red icing. I also have my template on a firm surface. I like to use a plexiglass underneath. That way I can move it and place it anywhere I want without worrying of my transfers breaking as they're drying. Now to make the gingerbread man, I started with a head. I let the head crust for about 2 minutes, and then I'm adding the body. Use again about 20 second consistency icing here. You can use 25. Just be mindful that you might get some spikes in the icing, and then use a scribe tool to smooth those out. Once these are dry, we can add all the little details. For the details here, I am using piping consistency. You can also use soft piping consistency. It's slightly more fluid than piping. And just go back and forth, create the zigzag lines on the legs and also on the arms. We're going to let these dry overnight. Give them about 8 to 12 hours of drying time. When you get the templates, they come also in a JPEG form, so you can resize them to your liking and to the size of the project that you need. Now we can do a stocking, starting with red icing. And I'm going to wait for these to dry, and then we can add white icing and then dust it with, you can use sanding sugar, or if you don't have sanding sugar, you can also use granulated sugar. However, granulated sugar, it has smaller crystals, sugar crystals, than sanding sugar, so it's not going to give you the exactly same result, but it works. So if you don't have sanding sugar, you can use granulated sugar instead. And again, we have to let these dry. Now let's do the snow globe. This one is a bit more complex because we're doing the glass portion first using blue icing, and then I'm gonna do my favorite technique, wet on wet. We're going to pipe Christmas tree onto the wet blue icing. If you're using wet on wet decorating technique, what's really important is the consistency of your icing. It should be about the same consistency as your base layer. It needs to be fluid enough so the icing that you're piping onto the blue is going to sink in. And now we can shape the tree with a scribe tool. Now let's do this one more time. Again, I'm using about 20 second consistency here. If your icing is too runny, you don't have as much control where what's happening. It's going to kind of run all around the place, I would say. It's just easier to use slightly thicker icing. So that's why I recommend 20 second consistency to 25 for these. And folks, if you are new to my YouTube channel, don't forget to subscribe And also, while you are at it, hit the bell button so you get notified about my new uploads. Once the glass portion is crusted, we can start adding the base. And for the base, again, I'm using about 20-second consistency. I'm going to do the base in 2 steps because I want to have nice definition there. So I'm going to do this step first, let it crust, and then we can add the bottom layer. You can make all these transfers ahead of time, and then you can just pop them on a cookie you're decorating and you are ready to go. Now we're just going to add some festive flair to these, adding yellow stars or dots, but these are supposed to be little stars, but when you're making them on such a small project, dots will suffice. So I'm making a garland. And now adding some white for the snow. Again, it's crucial that you let these dry and then you can remove them from the acetate. Now let's make this Santa. I was gonna say snowman, but this is definitely not a snowman. So I'm starting with a face using ivory colored royal icing. Again, 20-second consistency. We're gonna pipe 2 eyes there and then let it crust, and then we can add white beard. Guys, if you are new to cutout cookies and you would like to learn more about how to make them, you can check out my ebook, The Ultimate Guide to Cutout Cookies. It includes not only recipes, my tested recipes, but also all the tips and tricks and solutions to common and not so common cutout cookie conundrums. I'm starting with the nose because the nose is going to be also a transfer. So you can start with the nose using ivory and then again start with a face. Make the eyes using wet on wet decorating. Use your scribe to help icing to go down into that base layer. And now we can make the beard. All right, so let's start with the head. And after this, I suggest you let the icing dry. So it's best to just leave these be, let them dry, or at least give them a good 3-4 hours of drying time if you don't have full 8 hours. Because we're going to add sanding sugar onto the head. So if everything is wet, it's going to stick to everything. So if you want your sanding sugars to stick only to the white portions of the head, make sure that everything is dry. Otherwise, you're going to get some sugar also on the head. And I think it's adorable. So now let's make the mustache. So I'm using white icing here. You can see the base layer is already crusted, so it's not sinking in. And now we're going to add that cute little nose we made earlier. It's fully dry. Let's do this again. For the mustache, you can use slightly thicker icing. If you have it on hand, use like a piping consistency or soft piping consistency works. And then you can pop in that cute little nose. Now I'm adding some color to the nose. Once everything is dry, adding a little bit of blush onto the cheeks as needed. Now for the Christmas lights, you can make these in a variety of different colors. These are great for gingerbread houses. Or you can make 3 different colors and just add a cord across the cookie using black icing, and you can attach this on there and you've got yourself a festive design. So make sure that you let the icing crust before you adding the coil part using gray icing. And this icing can be slightly thicker, soft piping to piping consistency. Now we can make holly leaves, everybody's favorite. These are going to be made also in steps. There are several ways of how you can make holly leaves. You can also use thick consistency icing and pipe these with a leaf tip if you prefer that technique. Or you can follow this technique that I'm using here, using flat consistency icing, starting with one leaf, letting it crust, and then coming back again and making the adjacent leaf. And now we can pipe red berries. Make sure that you pipe the berries slightly overlapping the green section so they stick to the green, so when you remove them from the acetate, they're not going to fall apart. And now we can make wreath. To make the wreath, I'm using piping consistency icing, and I've got my piping bag fitted with number 2, or you can use number 3 piping tip depending on the size of the wreath you are making. And I'm using a teardrop shape to build the wreath. So I'm starting with a dot and then pulling it towards me. And then you're going to have to turn the template sheet to go all around to create this lovely design. Now at this point, you could also add sprinkles for the lights or any kind of festive decorations. Or if you don't have sprinkles, you can use royal icing, like I'm using here, red icing for tiny little dots. And then you can add yellow or any color basically. But I really like how this looks together, green, red, and yellow, very festive. Make sure that you let these dry completely before you remove them from the acetate. Again, you can find all the Christmas Royal Icing transfer sheets in my digital shop. A link is in the description box under the video. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you next time.